This mother was truly cruel. She deliberately had her daughter pretend to be allergic to jicama in order to gain an advantage in a hidden rivalry among mothers. However, before the plan could work, another parent suddenly exposed this lie. Things got even worse when Jun purposely ordered fried chicken with peanuts for Yujin's daughter to eat as a way to embarrass her in front of the crowd. Seeing the truth exposed, Yujin panicked and hurriedly took her daughter away from the crowd. Though seemingly harmonious and close, the group of mothers was actually full of pretense and schemes. They often flaunted their wealthy, comfortable lives on social media to make others admire them. They gave each other gifts, then took group photos to post online with sweet thanks. But behind the scenes, they competed with jealousy and subtle jabs, as no one wanted others to outshine them. Of course, Yujin was also one of the elite members of this circle. She was a full-time mother who always tried to build a perfect image by sharing beautiful moments in her life, from cozy family meals to scenes of her daughter studying diligently. One day she baked cookies, packed them carefully, and brought them to two other mothers in the group, Dong-A and Na-Yang. Both smiled brightly, accepted the gifts warmly, and even took photos to post online in gratitude. But right after, Yujin noticed that Dong-A's post didn't mention her name, as if the gift came from nowhere. Meanwhile, Na purposely chose to post a picture of Yujin with her eyes closed and a frowning face that looked extremely unflattering. Though unspoken, everyone understood these were subtle jabs between them. Feeling provoked, Yujin refused to be outdone. She immediately left a cryptic comment under the post, hinting that she had only stopped by to give the gift, and sarcastically adding that she had many beautiful pictures, but Na chose one that made them look like stuffed bears. Not only did they compete with each other, these mothers also put pressure on their children. The kindergarten was about to hold a Snow Princess musical performance, with the lead role chosen through a public audition. The key was that the child in the lead role would have close-up shots, something every parent desired. At the meeting, Jiyun subtly brought up an incident from 2 years ago, hoping the audition this time would be fair and avoid past mishaps. After the mothers left, the teachers whispered to each other about the old story. 2 years earlier, in a child model audition, just one day before the event, someone had deliberately given Yujin's daughter peanut candy, despite her severe allergy. As a result, the girl was hospitalized, and the entire audition fell into chaos. Upon returning home, Yujin quickly began planning to win this time. She started by planting in her daughter the belief that she must become the Snow Princess, then enrolled her in the class of a professional musical teacher. She always waited outside and took her home right after class, never missing a moment in her tight schedule. One day, while taking her daughter home, Eugene happened to see a package for Na-Yang in the elevator. After bringing her daughter inside, she went back, not by elevator, but barefoot up the stairs. Stopping at Na-Yang's door, her true face appeared. Seeing the security camera was temporarily down, Yujin stole the package and took it home. With cold calculation, she tore it open and shredded the clothes inside without mercy. Finished, she calmly wiped her hands and fixed her hair as if nothing had happened. She even posted photos of her daughter diligently practicing, boasting online about their hard work. Praise poured in, along with a few cryptic comments from Dong-A and Na-Yang. Refusing to be outdone, she fired back with sarcastic remarks. It looked like a hidden verbal war between civilized mothers. The day of the lead ROL audition finally came. As predicted, Yujin's daughter performed excellently and won the role. Other parents smiled to congratulate her, but behind their masks were jealousy and calculation. After the audition, Yujin flaunted her power by inviting the parents to a pool party to celebrate. Na-Yang refused, partly out of resentment and partly because of growing suspicion. In contrast, Jean quickly asked to bring her own child, eager not to miss a chance to get close to the winner. Naturally, Yujin gladly agreed. That evening, Na-Yang discovered her missing package. Checking the elevator camera, she saw Yujin staring at her parcel, raising suspicion. She went to Dong-A to discuss exposing the truth, but with only a vague video and no direct proof, they couldn't accuse Yujin. By chance, Na also saw Yujin holding a notebook with a famous singer's performance schedule, proof she had secretly hired an outside coach for the role. Even more telling, A student of that singer was on the audition panel. Na quickly connected the dots and believed Yujin had cheated. She was certain it was a well-planned scheme from the start, but sadly, it remained unproven. As always, the most cunning player wins every game. On the way to the pool party, Ji-in happened to see her own daughter fighting back tears, disappointment clear on her young face. The girl had tried her best to sing and act smoothly, yet was only chosen as a side character to make others shine. Once again, history repeated itself. Her daughter was pushed aside without mercy. This time, Ji-in could not bear it. Dropping her usual smile, she revealed a cold, serious face, her eyes sharp as knives as she watched the children playing. When they grew tired and hungry, Ji-in offered to order food. She deliberately got fried chicken sprinkled with crushed peanuts, quietly making sure it reached Yujin's daughter. No one noticed the dark scheme unfolding. Minutes later, the girl ate a bite and began coughing hard, turning the lively party tense. The mothers panicked while Ji-in pretended to be shocked, stammering that she forgot Yujin's daughter was allergic to peanuts. Yujin was the most frantic, holding her pale-faced daughter and patting her back, but surprisingly, after a single hiccup, the girl recovered, seemingly only choking, and even reached for another piece. Yujin quickly stopped her, looking tense and embarrassed. Seizing the moment, Ji-in coldly asked, "Was the girl really allergic? If so, why was she fine right after coughing? No rash, no breathing trouble. Where were the symptoms?" The question hit Yujin like a punch to the chest. The mothers exchanged suspicious glances. With no other option, Yujin hurriedly left with her daughter, repeating they needed to go to the hospital. From afar, Ji-in watched their backs with a satisfied smile, as if she had just made the perfect move. Sitting in the car, the little girl timidly said that she was not allergic at all, but Yujin still maintained a cold attitude, only telling the girl to keep quiet. At the hospital gate, instead of going inside, she just drove around once, then got out to take a few photos with the hospital name sign in the background and posted them on social media. Everything she did was only to create the illusion that her daughter had been given emergency treatment. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until a video of the girl eating fried chicken spread at lightning speed. In the video, the filmer even clearly noted that the fried chicken was sprinkled with peanuts. After watching the clip, Na Young could not hide her contempt. She whispered to the person next to her that Yujin was the type to lie without blinking. Both 2 years ago and now she used despicable tricks to achieve her goals. Coincidentally, Yujin was just coming down to throw out the TR's ash when she accidentally overheard those words. Just when things were in chaos, Eugene suddenly received a phone call. The caller was a woman named Miho who was working at a large media company. Her company was planning to organize a social media campaign for families. Many internet-famous families had registered to participate, including Eugene's family. During the process of screening applications, Miho and her colleagues sorted through each family to choose the right ones for the promotion. But when she scrolled to Eugene's photo, Miho's hand trembled involuntarily and she kept muttering the words, "troublemaker." Her gaze tightened as if she had just seen a ghost from the past. After work, Miho returned to her silent apartment, quietly removed a photo frame from the shelf, and found an old, faded photo behind it. In the picture were 2 girls hugging intimately, and one of them was Yujin. The old scene surged back like a long, unhealed scar flaring up. The memories with Yujin from years ago stirred up a whirlwind of emotions, making Miho unable to remain calm, though she still carried many ripples of hurt from the past. Because of work, Miho had to propose to her team leader that the company should invite some influential families to shoot a promotional set. She deliberately mentioned Yujin's name, and the proposal was approved, with the task falling into her own hands. Having no other choice, Miho had to take the initiative to contact Yujin after many years apart. When she introduced herself, Yujin had no idea who she was. Before Miho could finish her sentence, Yujin cut her off and hastily hung up. Sometime later, Yujin noticed a strange account named Miho had just followed her personal page. The name made her freeze and recall the strange phone call earlier. At this moment, her memories began connecting scattered fragments but could not yet fully name them. That evening, while Yujin was secretly eavesdropping on Na Yang bad-mouthing her, Miho called again. But Yujin did not answer right away. She waited until she got home to call back. She greeted with an indifferent voice, acting as if nothing had ever happened between them. After a few short pleasantries, Eugene's husband arrived home, so she immediately arranged to meet Miho the next day and quickly hung up. The next day, Miho arrived at the meeting place with a mix of nervousness and unease. Eugene asked a few questions about Miho's mother, who was hospitalized, and her father, who had passed away forever. They had once lived together like family, but ultimately could not be real family. Miho had just begun to open up when Eugene coldly handed her a small gift, then used the excuse of having to go home to take care of her children to leave in a hurry. When Miho opened it, she froze for 5 seconds upon seeing a box full of cash inside. Unable to stay silent, Miho went straight to the bottom of Eugene's apartment and texted her to come down to talk. Ironically, at that moment, a group of mothers was arriving at Eugene's home. Not wanting them to see Miho, Eugene reluctantly texted her old friend to come upstairs instead. Perhaps she wanted to hide her from the prying eyes of others. As soon as the door opened, Eugene pulled Miho inside in a hurry. At the same time, the mothers rang the doorbell repeatedly. On the other side, Eugene's husband was also walking toward the apartment, bringing her closer to the risk of exposure. Eugene tried to distract her husband with an excuse to get him away from the scene, then turned back to the door to greet the mothers with a smile, as if nothing had happened. But Dong-ae quickly noticed the cash scattered on the floor. Though she said nothing, the alertness was clear on her face. After the group left, Eugene squatted down, quietly gathering the scattered bills and hiding them in a hallway cabinet. Her face hardened as if someone had just gripped her throat. Seeing that it was quiet outside, she quickly pulled Miho out of the apartment, as if trying to cast away a piece of terrifying memory from her life. Unexpectedly, as the elevator door opened, the two ran into Dong-ae, who had deliberately returned. Dong-ae, curious about Miho, deliberately asked about her identity. Miho calmly introduced herself and said she and Eugene only had a work relationship. This probing made Miho realize she was the reason for Eugene's panic. Perhaps Eugene did not want others to see her. Miho was still the same as before, still with her old demeanor. The incident of Eugene's daughter pretending to be allergic to peanuts had caused a major stir. The mothers needed an answer, but she avoided meeting them. So Dong-ae did not hesitate to act as a mediator, sending Eugene a private message advising her to respond clearly soon. Not long after, Eugene went to the kindergarten to announce that her daughter would give up the lead role. Then Eugene suggested that all the children be made lead characters, changing the musical into a combination of short plays. That way, each child would have their own space to shine. As for the script, costumes, and stage setup, she would prepare everything thoroughly. Eugene's proposal pleased the other mothers, so naturally no one objected. In the end, Eugene resolved the crisis smoothly. On the performance day, the parents all arrived on time. Soon, the show began, and the children took turns on stage. Eventually, it was Eugene's daughter's turn, alongside Jae-in's daughter. Eugene's daughter played Cinderella, and the other played the fairy waving a magic wand. Eugene's daughter, upon seeing the wand, had a frightening association, screamed loudly, and fell to the ground. This incident shocked all the parents, and Eugene rushed on stage to hold her daughter. The girl kept shouting that she was wrong, making the audience glance at each other. At this moment, Ji-eun and her daughter stepped forward to ask about the situation, but Eugene snapped back, claiming the other's movement had been too strong and accidentally hit her daughter, causing the misunderstanding. Ji-eun never expected Eugene to be so shameless, so she chased after her to question why she would falsely accuse her daughter and make an innocent person take the blame. Then Ji-eun brought up the old incident about the peanut candy, saying that this time there were security cameras and many parents recording videos. She knew that as long as the video was shown, the truth would be clear. Upon hearing this, a kind parent offered to share the video they had recorded. Seeing this, Eugene immediately changed the subject, asking, "Aren't you afraid that doing this will scare the children? Is now the time to investigate faults?" Then Eugene used the excuse that her daughter was frightened to leave early. At home, Eugene and her daughter painted to develop her artistic skills. She told her daughter to draw a tree and tried to analyze her personality through psychology based on the drawing. The desperate strokes showed the helplessness in her daughter's heart. The withered fruit represented her very low desire for success. At this moment, Miho called to discuss work. Introducing the detailed plan for filming the advertisement, Yoojin deliberately acted high and mighty because she knew Miho was about to be promoted. As long as she could leverage work, she could hold Miho tightly in her hands. Although Yoojin had left with her daughter, Ji-eun still wanted to clarify everything. She brought the video to the teacher to prove her daughter was innocent. But the teacher avoided the matter, hoping she would not bring it up again, which made Ji-eun unable to swallow her anger. On her way out, she saw Na-yang ahead, so she called her over and showed her the video. After seeing her daughter Yoojin's reaction during the performance, Na-yang spread rumors among the parents. She said she suspected Yoojin's daughter was being treated unfairly at home, but was overheard while speaking. Yoojin clearly stated that it was a rumor, and that those who fabricated it should just wait and see. In Yoojin's computer were many hidden folders, each named after one of those mothers. Inside, she kept each person's secrets, which was her method of revenge. Recently, Yoojin's created a new folder, and this time, its subject was Miho. On the day Yoojin filmed a commercial, her two daughters also joined the shoot. Yoojin took the opportunity to speak privately with Miho for a few words and brought up the past. Hearing this, Miho frankly said that both of them had hurt each other and should apologize to put the matter completely to rest. But Yoojin retorted, asking why she should apologize when the past was never her fault. Hearing her former close friend say that, Miho was at a loss for words. She had come today to clear up the misunderstanding, but hadn't expected Yoojin to be so brazen. Perhaps she had never truly reflected on the past. At that moment, Yoojin's younger daughter suddenly choked on a piece of candy. Yoojin rushed forward in worry, refusing to let anyone touch her child. Then, Miho snatched the girl from Yoojin's hands, accidentally scratching her in the process. Miho quickly held the girl up and shook her a few times until she spat the candy out. After her daughter was safe, Yoojin immediately pushed Miho away without a word of thanks. Instead, she looked displeased and criticized Miho for bringing candy here. Yoojin didn't care about saving face and spoke loudly in front of everyone. In the past, Miho had nearly turned to gold in her eyes, but now she had almost harmed her daughter, so she would never forgive Miho. Yoojin then held her younger daughter tightly and left with both children. Yoojin's mental state worried people. Ever since meeting Miho, she seemed constantly on edge. This time, she was trembling all over, a sight that truly frightened her daughter. After work ended, Miho saw Yoojin's social media post and realized the little girl had been injured during filming. Unable to bear it, she brought a cake to Yoojin's door to apologize. She knocked several times, but no one answered, so Miho set the cake down and prepared to leave. Just then, Yoojin angrily opened the door and knocked the cake away. Regaining her composure, Miho apologized for the past, but Yoojin, agitated, refused to listen and told her to go and die. As Miho went down the stairs, she received a call from Yoojin. Yoojin's voice was halting, full of pain, speaking strange words before abruptly hanging up. Miho immediately called back, but no one answered. The next day, Miho saw the news of Yoojin's permanent passing. Yoojin's death spread quickly through every street and alley. When the police began investigating, they found the scene full of bloodstains. Soon after, they discovered her phone in a puddle of blood on the balcony. Forensic experts also found a torn piece of a painting in the toilet. Hearing the news, Miho was speechless for a long time. She remembered how, when she was young, her mother and Yoojin's father had remarried, creating a new family, so the two girls had to live together under one roof. Outgoing Yoojin always looked for chances to show goodwill to Miho. Miho, uneasy, would hurry away whenever Yoojin approached. Once, after scoring only 92 points on a test, Miho was too disappointed to show her mother. Yoojin, having scored perfect, easily, took the initiative to swap papers with her. Because of this bond, Miho acted as a family member at Yeojin's funeral. The two young daughters, still unaware of what had happened, played carefree. The mothers attending the funeral whispered behind their backs, lamenting life's impermanence. They also gossiped about Miho, the unfamiliar face in the family seats. Ji-eun arrived late, and both she and Miho were slightly surprised to see each other. They were old acquaintances who had once worked together. Jeon asked Miho a few questions, stirring her emotions. For days she had held back tears, but now she could no longer contain her grief. Yujin's husband had also been attacked and was still in a coma. Besides Miho, the funeral was hosted by Yujin's father-in-law, who asked Miho to help care for the two girls for a while. Miho politely refused, saying she couldn't properly care for them in her current situation. Yujin's final call before die had been to Miho. Based on this, the police visited Miho's home and workplace several times. Of course, Miho still remembered that strange call, Yujin's voice breaking and speaking odd words. She never understood the meaning, but in front of the police, she said nothing and simply turned away. Already troubled, Miho then got a call from Yujin's father-in-law, asking her to come over immediately. Thinking something had happened, she went, only to find he still hadn't given up on asking her to watch the children. Reluctantly, she agreed to her friend's father-in-law's request. That night, Miho browsed Yujin's social media and came across a malicious comment from a certain user. Clicking the profile, she found it belonged to Na Yang. Miho remembered seeing Na Yang at the funeral, and now these comments made her suspect tension between Na Yang and Yujin. Because of Yujin's death, Na Yang seemed especially anxious. Dong-ae kept warning her not to make a big deal over small guilty feelings, but Na Yang asked in return if Dong-ae was hiding something from her. Both probed each other's thoughts, but neither admitted anything. In truth, both had met Yujin before her die. Yujin had shown them the secrets she had gathered about them. After Yujin's death, the family's nanny still took the two girls to school as usual. Dong-ae affectionately hugged the children as if to comfort them. That day, the teacher had the girls plant a tree in memory of their mother in heaven. She even made special decorative plaques to hang on the tree. Dong-ae enthusiastically joined in, bringing the girls to the activity, but in the end, the dirty work was done by the teachers, while Dong-ae stood aside, coldly pointing and commenting. Taking advantage of a moment when no one was watching, Dong-ae secretly placed a yellow talisman into the tree hole. After planting, the children returned to class. Dong-ae called Yujin's nanny over, handed her money on the spot, and tried to lure her into working for another household, saying her own maid could help with Yujin's daughters. The nanny, already wanting to quit, was tempted by the large sum, and of course could no longer stay. After school, Miho came to pick up the girls and ran into other parents. She saw Dong-ae and Ji-eun, noticing their unpleasant expressions when they saw each other, which made Miho suspect they had a conflict. Ji-eun said that since Yujin's incident, the parents had been gossiping, speculating about the cause of her death. Recently, Ji-eun had had friction with Yujin, so people saw her as a suspect. At that moment, the mothers noticed the sapling planted that morning had been uprooted. Dong-ae turned to see Miho and Ji-eun talking, and spotted mud all over Ji-eun's shoes. She said nothing, instead stepping on the sapling and coldly remarking, "Well, she's already died anyway." Dong-ae planned to take the children to a show after school, and took Yujin's daughters from Miho. Relieved not to babysit, Miho returned to work, but the image of the two girls holding hands lingered in her mind. Unable to rest easy, she intercepted Dong-ae and the children in the parking garage, and ended up going with them to the aquarium. When they arrived, they faced a problem. The younger girl's doll was too big to fit in her bag. Annoyed, Dong-ae tore off the doll's head to stuff it in, making the girl cry loudly. Miho sighed, took the doll out, reattached the head, and put it in her own bag, finally calming the child. Dong-ae had booked the entire theater room, but due to a scheduling error, another group of children came to visit. Dong-ae refused to share the room. Staff suggested she compromise or they would refund her money, but she stubbornly refused, arguing with the staff. While they spoke, the children chattered away. Suddenly, Dong-ae turned to them and shouted, scolding them for being noisy. Feeling her rights were violated, she stormed off, dragging Yujin's daughters away, declaring the matter was far from over. Knowing the girls truly wanted to see the show, Miho chased after them, suggesting they let the children watch until the end. She bluntly told Dong-ae that she was in a bad mood and unwilling to compromise, so why use the children as an excuse? Right now, the real obstacle to watching the show seemed to be Dong-ae herself. hit in a sore spot, Dong-ae asked the girls if they wanted to watch. Frightened, they said nothing, and the other mothers quickly replied they would skip it. Only Miho took the two girls to watch the aquarium performance to the end. That evening, she took the children home, but they did not like the babysitter and clung to Miho at farewell. At night, the daughter at home heard the babysitter calling the grandfather. The babysitter's words were full of annoyance, impatience, and unwillingness to keep looking after the two children. So the girl secretly woke her sister and the two of them slipped out of the house. Not long after, Miho was informed, and she immediately rushed over. According to the elevator camera, the two children had taken the elevator and left the building. Other parents who heard the news also gathered together. Dong-ae rallied everyone to post on social media to search for the children, and a large group of people split up to look for them. After some effort, Miho finally got word that the children were on a bus. Miho suddenly remembered that the bus route could go near her home. It turned out the children had run away to find her, and she had not known. Miho went to the bus stop to pick them up, then brought the two girls to her house. She learned how to bathe them like a mother and put them to sleep, leaving her exhausted. In the middle of the night, the children suddenly began to miss Yujin, crying loudly and demanding to go home. Feeling helpless, Miho packed up so she could take them home that very night. On the way, Miho also took the chance to ask the team leader for leave from work. That same night, the other mothers each had their own concerns. Na Yang was smashing the nameplate on a young tree as if venting anger. Jian took out the yellow talisman and tore it to pieces. Miho returned the sisters home, settled them to sleep, and then glanced around Yujin's house. When she pulled the curtain open, she saw Yujin standing outside, her whole body covered in blood, which startled Miho. Yujin accused Miho of being the real culprit who had stifled her breath and ordered her to go die. At that moment, Miho woke up, realizing it had been just a dream. A new day began. Miho started her childcare life, making breakfast, doing laundry, even wiping the children's bottoms. So busy, she could barely breathe. Luckily, Dong-ae helped, though with less than pure intentions. She came to Eugene's house to look for hair ties for the children, but was rummaging through the place. At that moment, Miho caught her and stopped her behavior. Later, Dong-ae probed Miho about her true identity. Miho and Eugene were sisters, but the other mothers had never heard Eugene mention her. Hearing this, Miho frankly said she and Eugene had not contacted each other for 18 years. As Miho was about to move into Eugene's house, Dong-ae took her to make a residential access card. But because she was not the owner, the management refused to accommodate. Dong-ae seriously pointed out that the staff were just afraid of trouble and unwilling to work. Then, Dong-ae firmly declared she would organize a residence vote. Thanks to Dong-ae's persistence, Miho got the access card. After that, Dong-ae brought Miho to a mother's gathering. Miho, like Eugene, was left-handed when eating. Na Yang mocked her, saying this was just to make herself stand out. However, Miho was not used to the atmosphere and quickly made an excuse to leave. Na Yang felt Miho and Eugene had very similar personalities, so her impression was not good. When paying the bill, the four mothers played a game. They would all text their husbands asking for a handbag, and the one whose husband replied last would pay. The two husbands who replied first both refused. Dong-ae's husband replied third, agreeing without hesitation. At this point, the loser was determined. Dong-ae bragged in front of the others about her husband. Na Yang's husband replied last, but his message made everyone admire him. He told her to contact the sales clerk and buy it tonight. Dong-ae shot her a glare, while Na Yang felt vindicated, happily paying the bill. That day after school, Miho and the sisters replanted Eugene's tree, as the previous one had been mysteriously damaged. While planting, Miho accidentally injured her finger. She suddenly recalled that not long ago she had seen a scar on Na Yang's finger. Later, Miho met Na Yang in the restroom. Na Yang sarcastically hinted that planting a tree would not make someone a good person, and told Miho not to always think of standing out. Just live quietly. Miho asked what she meant, and Na Yang almost lost her temper. On the way home, Miho ran into Jian and went to her house. Jian's husband worked overseas, so it was usually just mother and child at home. Earlier, Jian had mentioned that many people wanted to bring down Yujin, and these mothers were suspicious. Taking the chance, Miho asked why she said that. Jian told Miho that these mothers and Yujin acted like close friends on social media, but in reality, no one knew the truth. For example, Na Yang was a shameless liar. Indeed, Na Yang's social media was full of lies, just performances for others. That evening, she did not get the handbag she wanted, but used one from home to pretend her husband had just gifted it, posting photos online. In truth, Na Yang had a dark side no one knew. She often sniffed her husband's clothes, and if she smelled perfume, she would get furious, threaten to cut ties with a knife, and smash the wedding photo. In the end, her husband gave her a bracelet and explained that the perfume came from the store clerk when he bought it. Hearing this, Na Yang cried, then smiled sweetly, making up with him. The next day, when picking up her child, Na Yang noticed the teacher wearing the exact same bracelet. Suspicious, she rudely grabbed the teacher's arm to inspect it. After confirming it was identical, she sent her child to Deng A and left in a hurry. Witnessing this, Miho immediately followed and got into Na Yang's car. Na Yang, emotionally agitated, thought Miho had come to ask about Yujin's death. She gradually lost control, slammed the steering wheel, and screamed hoarsely that Yujin had brought it on herself. Frightened, Miho wanted to get out, but Na Yang locked the doors, sped out of the parking lot, and upon seeing the teacher walk by, floored the gas toward her. Miho quickly intervened, pulling the steering wheel just in time to prevent tragedy. Na Yang and the teacher were taken to the hospital, and her husband rushed over. From him, Miho learned that Na Yang had an anger adjustment disorder. She could not control sudden emotions and sometimes forgot her actions afterward. She was naturally suspicious, having doubted every woman near her husband, even other mothers. That day was supposed to be the monthly parents' meeting, but after what happened, Miho had not planned to go until she saw Na Yang, fresh from the hospital, unaffected, posting cheerful selfies at the gathering. So Miho decided she had to attend. She called a colleague to take care of the children, then went to the hotel where the meeting was held. The other mothers were dressed glamorously, while Miho wore casual clothes. Feeling out of place, she quietly left so as not to disturb their fun. That night, Na Yang, drunk, saw another mother chatting briefly with her husband and almost had another jealous fit. Her husband quickly pulled her away, but as they were leaving, Miho happened to witness their quarrel. She saw Na Yang's suspicion, her husband's dismissiveness, their incompatibility, and Na Yang's ugly side, rolling on the ground in a tantrum yet refusing to break up. Meanwhile, at home, Miho's colleague was playing hide-and-seek with the children. One hid in the wardrobe and accidentally knocked over a box of photos. When Miho came home and saw them, she found they were bedroom photos. The man was Na Yang's husband, and the woman having an affair with him was only shown from the arm. Miho was shocked to see the woman wearing the exact same bracelet as Yujin. The next day, after dropping the children at school, Miho asked her colleague where he had found those two photos. After that, Miho also searched the same place on her own, trying to find more clues. A colleague gave Miho a piece of advice. Why not meet the man in the photo once and see? So, through the building management office, Miho found out Na Yang's husband's parking spot and quietly left a note. On the note was a message asking to meet him at his parking space. After leaving the note, Miho went to pick up the children after school, and at this moment she ran into Deng A, who was making things difficult for the teacher. The night before, Deng A had looked at the teacher's social media account and discovered she had a lot of jewelry and handbags. Those items were of the same style as the other mothers in the class. In one post, the teacher even mentioned she had a boyfriend. Deng A saw the bracelet the teacher was wearing, knew exactly what it was, but still asked if it was a gift from her boyfriend. The teacher gave a vague answer, but Deng A pressed further, jokingly asking whether the boyfriend was someone everyone knew. Hearing that, the teacher's expression suddenly changed. She quickly denied it, and her attitude turned cold. Deng A, a little impatient, reminded the teacher not to wear jewelry at work in case she accidentally hurt the children. The teacher felt indignant, thinking Deng A had no right to interfere in her private life. and that such pointing fingers was overstepping. While the two were arguing, Na Yang joined in, siding with Deng A. She questioned whether the teacher was being rude because she had someone backing her. Na Yang then warned the teacher to know her place and not to covet other people's belongings. While saying this, she yanked the teacher's bracelet and threw it outside, breaking it, leaving the teacher to sadly pick it up. The other mothers stood watching coldly. Only Miho stepped forward to help the teacher up. At that moment, the teacher began vomiting and Miho took her to the bathroom. The teacher pulled Miho back, crying, and confided that both Deng A and Na Yang were not to be underestimated, especially Na Yang, who often stirred up trouble with others because of her husband. The teacher also secretly told Miho that Na Yang's husband and Yu-jin had issues. About a week ago, Na had posted an attack on Yin, warning Yu-jin not to provoke her husband. While speaking, the teacher wanted to find this post, but it had been deleted. After their conversation, Miho went to pick up her child at kindergarten, just in time to see Na scolding two siblings, making them cry in distress. When questioned by Miho, Na Yang acted as if she was completely justified, even getting angry at Miho for her confrontational attitude. She wanted to drive Miho out of the apartment complex and ban the siblings from the children's gatherings. From start to finish, Na Yang targeted Miho everywhere. This inevitably made people suspect she was connected to Yujin's permanent departure. In this direct confrontation, Na Yang did not gain the upper hand. So she went to Deng A, trying to pull her into joining forces to drive Miho away. They could not allow Miho to freely leak things to the outside. Deng A, catching the key point, asked back at Na Yang, was it that her husband's affair could not be revealed? It turned out the other mothers already knew about Na Yang's husband's indiscretions. Every time Na Yang boasted about her loving marriage in front of them, they would exchange knowing glances and smile meaningfully. Enraged, Na Yang declared she would not spare Deng A, saying at worst they could go down together. She knew Deng A was looking for Yujin's USB because it contained her secrets. If Deng A kept making trouble for her, Na Yang would tell Miho everything, including what they had done before Yujin went to die. Frightened, Deng A soon brought food to Yujin's house. Taking advantage of a trip to the bathroom, she rummaged through the study again. She never expected that the USB she had been desperately searching for was not in the study, but hidden inside the little pouch of the daughter's doll. Miho noticed Deng A was taking too long in the bathroom and went to check. Faced with the situation, Deng A quickly pretended she was reading. She had gone into the study again and again, seemingly looking for something. When questioned by Miho, Deng A acted angry. Not only that, she bit back at Miho for being inconsiderate. Just as they were struggling, Ji-eun came to visit. That day, Miho wanted to take the photo to the criminal police once, so she asked Ji-eun to watch her two kids. Miho left the children with Ji-eun, but as soon as she stepped out, she remembered she had forgotten something. When she came back, she saw Ji-eun trying to open the study door, but since it was locked, Ji-eun could not get in. This made Miho even more curious about Yujin's study. Miho took the photo to the police station, but the police did not take the clue seriously. Seeing him casually put the photo on the desk, Miho reluctantly returned. But just as she was about to reach the apartment complex, she happened to see Na Yang's husband driving past. As Miho hurried to follow, her colleague brought her new information. In recent days, the colleague had carefully checked Yujin's social media. He found that almost all of Yujin's posts were selfies and family photos, except for one that was different, a family photo of Na Yang at a kindergarten performance. In the photo, Na Yang's husband was looking at his daughter on stage, smiling happily, which struck the colleague as strange. If Yujin and Na Yang's husband were having an affair, why would she post a photo of her lover's family? Later, Miho analyzed the post carefully. Yujin had used a loaded keyword, gaze. It was very possible that Na Yang's husband was not looking at his daughter, but at the teacher standing next to her on stage. While they were talking, Miho saw Na Yang's husband get out of the car and enter a place, and the person he was meeting was the teacher. Not long after, the teacher got in the car, and he drove off as if they were very familiar. Besides Miho, there was someone else secretly following them. The detective Deng A had hired. The detective followed them all the way to the obstetrics department. That evening, Na Yang could not reach her husband and felt very anxious. She went out to hail a taxi and ran into the mothers chatting downstairs. Seeing her rushed appearance, Dong-A showed curiosity. Dong asked if Na Yang was looking for her husband and then said, "If you want to know where your husband is, follow me." However, Dong-A led Na Yang to the garbage room instead. The two quarreled again, tearing apart their facade of peace and losing all pretense. Then Dong-A exposed the truth, that Na Yang's husband was having an affair with the teacher, and criticized Na Yang for childishly pulling out Yujin's plant because Yujin also knew about it. Na Yang was not afraid, saying that even if exposed, she would only lose face, but for Dong-A it was different. At present, her husband's investment presentation was coming up, and if her secret was revealed, the consequences would be dire. Dong-A refused to be outdone and dropped another bomb, that the teacher was pregnant. Na Yang, still deceiving herself, tried to boast about her husband, looking both pitiful and ridiculous. A little later, Na Yang went home, only for her husband to loudly argue with her for not being home to watch their child. Her pent-up anger and frustration had nowhere to go, so she ran to the balcony and screamed to release her feelings. Na Yang had always pretended to have a harmonious marriage. She thought that as long as she lowered her voice to apologize and beg her husband, they would make up as before. She had always been careful to maintain their relationship and had even had passionate nights with him, but she still could not hold on to a husband who was growing ever more distant. The next day, at the mothers' gathering, Dong-A again suggested they play Who Will Pay. This time, the message to send to their husbands was, "Let's have a second child." The other mothers all sent the message per Dong-A's idea, but Na Yang, having problems with her husband, felt pressured. She held her phone but could not send the words. The others looked at Na Yang's embarrassment with mocking faces. Desperate, Na Yang went home, lay on the bed, and cried. On social media, people even teased that her daughter looked like the teacher. Reading the comments, Na Yang became even more miserable and hopeless. Seeing Na Yang in such a state, Miho went to visit her. At that moment, Miho's phone kept showing notifications. Not long before, Na Yang had posted a photo of a necktie with the words, "Save me." Under the post were many cruel and mocking comments. And now, Na Yang was wrapping that tie around her neck. Just as Miho arrived to visit, she saw the post and immediately rushed into the room. Seeing this, Miho quickly saved Na Yang and took her to the hospital. The story of Na Yang also caused a stir among the mothers. Since Miho was the witness, everyone kept asking her about it, but she also didn't know the details. Seeing that no useful information could be obtained, Dong-A became slightly flustered. Before the incident, she deliberately told the other party that the teacher was pregnant. Dong-A guessed that our words might have provoked Na Yang into making an extreme choice. So she immediately deleted her post about Na Yang's daughter looking like the teacher. In front of everyone, Dong-A still gathered with the mothers as usual. She even prepared gifts for each mother to get closer, then deliberately said frightening things. She claimed that Na Yang acted rashly because she was tormented by Miho, so this matter could not just be brushed aside. Dong-A led the other mothers to target Miho and said the first step was to kick her out of the group. On the other hand, Dong-A asked someone to investigate Miho's past. Soon, the detective found clues showing that Miho had graduated from So-Wide High School. Therefore, Dong-A discovered that she and Eugene had been childhood classmates. Just as Dong-A was secretly investigating her true identity, Eugene's father-in-law told Miho that the nanny who would care for the children was about to start. Faced with the sudden separation, Miho felt a bit reluctant inside. That evening, the children clung to her, wanting to sleep together for peace of mind. The next morning, when going to school, they cried and refused to leave even for a minute, not wanting to part from Miho. As if sensing something, Miho parted with them heavily. After tidying up at home, she went to the company to complete her reinstatement procedures. Next, Miho visited her mother in the hospital. She explained that she had been busy with work lately, so she had visited less often. But her mother had already called the company beforehand and guessed everything. Knowing all of Miho's recent actions, her mother scolded her severely. In the past, Eugene had hurt Miho, leaving her living in the shadows until now. Yet Miho repaid hatred with kindness, even helping Eugene care for her two children. In her anger, her mother accidentally let slip something. Before marriage and after giving birth, Eugene had sought out Miho but was stopped by her mother. Miho had always been deceived, as this was the first time she had heard that Eugene had tried to find her. At this moment, Miho truly wanted to know why Eugene had come. Was it because she thought of their bond and wanted to apologize for the past? But it was already too late. Before she could explain, Eugene had passed away. On the way out of the hospital, Miho's thoughts drifted back to 2003. At that time, the four of them lived harmoniously under the same roof. Miho and Eugene hid nothing from each other, often secretly doing mischievous things together. For example, out of curiosity, they stole a box of condoms from the sex education classroom to carry around. The two girls teased each other and even inflated the condoms like balloons. Eugene also taught the good girl Miho to register an account so she could chat online. On weekends, the two girls went to church for services with Sungdu's parents. Their relationship was very good back then, but happiness suddenly ended due to an unexpected event. One day, when the two were playing on the stairs, Miho accidentally fell down. In an instant, Miho's mother's expression changed frighteningly. The gentleness from before was gone as she loudly scolded Eugene. She became harsh, blaming Eugene for everything. Kind people nearby came to help, telling Eugene's father to carry Miho to the hospital. Though a bit embarrassed, Eugene's father still carried Miho. His hands held her legs tightly, making her mother unhappy when she saw it. After this small scene, her mother became stricter with Miho. That day's fall was not serious. After learning that Miho had pretended to be in pain, her mother scolded her for making a fuss over nothing. Even Miho's preference for long hair was met with her mother forcing her to cut it short. But her strictness was aimed solely at Miho. She always held double standards between Miho and Eugene. In the end, Miho truly didn't understand why her mother acted this way. Eugene analyzed that it was because her mother was jealous of Miho, jealous that she had grown from a girl into a woman. Miho didn't believe her mother could be like that, leading to cracks between her and Eugene. At school, the two no longer stuck together all the time. During a scuffle, Miho accidentally fell, causing the condoms to scatter everywhere. She was then told to invite her parents for a mild warning. Unexpectedly, Miho's mother bit back at Eugene in front of the teacher, saying that Eugene had turned out this way because of her own mother's words and actions. It turned out Eugene's biological mother had also had an affair with a younger man. Eugene hurriedly defended herself, admitting that the items had been stolen by Miho. Hearing this, Miho quickly explained that Eugene had told her to steal the condoms. Because of this, Miho and Eugene had a huge quarrel. Miho then fired off several sharp questions, making Eugene angry. Was it because her mother had said hurtful things, or because she had chosen to side with her own daughter? Eugene, hurt, denied being jealous of someone with a mother like that. The quarrel escalated until it turned into attacks on each other's families. During the argument, Eugene was pushed to the ground, scraping her face. This incident deepened the rift between them to the point it could no longer be repaired. When Eugene's father was present, Miho's mother hugged her daughter to comfort her. Once Eugene's father left the hospital room, Miho's mother's face returned to its cold state. She only hugged her own daughter, leaving Eugene with a heartless figure. Even after careful treatment, Eugene still had a scar on her face. In anger, she pushed Miho, nearly shoving her under a car. Not long after, a letter of accusation appeared on the school bulletin board. Eugene accused model student Miho of being behind the condom incident but blaming her instead. She even hinted at an unclear relationship between Miho and her stepfather. Because of this, Miho immediately became the focus of the entire school. At that moment, Eugene stood at the edge of the rooftop, threatening Miho to admit the truth of the letter. When Miho refused, Eugene pretended to jump. Cornered, Miho was forced to confess. This led to both Miho and her stepfather being investigated by the school. Eugene's father became the subject of gossip, mentally collapsing and locking himself away. Miho's mother went to find him, hoping he would explain the truth to save this family, as she could not afford a second failed marriage. But Eugene's father couldn't face it and chose to end it all. Afterwards, Miho's mother blamed her daughter for causing the failure of this marriage. hoping she would always remember she was her mother's center. After a long period of torment, Miho finally began a new life. Returning to the present, Miho still went to pick up the children as usual. The two, sensing the separation, clung to her and refused to go with Miho. Slightly annoyed, she left them there and walked ahead. Seeing this, the daughter loudly questioned Miho from behind. Did even she want to abandon them? In that moment, Eugene's image appeared before Miho's eyes. She recalled every way the children had called her in recent days. So Miho couldn't bear it and turned back to hug them. She took the sisters home, and after coaxing them to sleep, she searched for Eugene's family photo album. From there, she found old pictures of her and Eugene as children, making her emotional. The next day, Miho received a message from a stranger, saying they were willing to make a deal with her and told her to bring a USB to the underground parking lot. But Miho had no idea what USB they meant, so she searched the house thoroughly. At the appointed time, she decided to take the risk and try once. Miho pretended to have found the USB and went to the underground parking lot to meet, but no one appeared. Right then, she received a message from the other party giving her a number and password for a locker and telling her to put the USB inside. The other party seemed to be nearby watching Miho to know her every move. Miho opened the locker and saw a paper bag inside, so she immediately searched for the person who had arranged to meet her nearby. When she reached the meeting point, Miho bumped into a man in the parking lot and later happened to meet the same man near the locker. But Miho did not suspect him. Returning to the parking lot, she noticed someone seemed to be in the car opposite. Seeing that, Miho was about to approach when the person suddenly started the car and drove away. Although Miho did not see the person's face clearly, she picked up a lipstick on the ground. To confirm the identity of this person, Miho searched for clues on the mother's social media. Finally, she saw a similar lipstick in a photo of Dong-ae. It turned out that her two chance encounters with the same man in the parking lot that evening were not coincidences. That man was Dong-ae's secretary, who had also been following and investigating Miho. The next day, her little sister brought her favorite doll to kindergarten. After Miho took the two sisters to school, Jiun pulled her aside to inform her that tonight the parents would have a gathering. Miho also attended, and the meeting took place entirely under Dong-ae's control. Miho fiddled with the lipstick in her hand, recalling that Dong-ae had previously secretly searched the study room, making her suspicious. At that moment, a beautiful woman entered in the middle of the party. The woman's name was Jia-eun, a member of a girl group. Her family background was already good, and after gaining fame, it became even better. While working as an idol, she was also known as a golden spoon idol. Dong-ae could act domineering in front of other mothers, but not in front of Jia-eun. That was because Jia-eun was the owner of Cafe 99, a famous upscale cafe for mothers. Uniquely, the membership number was always maintained at 99. To join, someone had to withdraw for a new spot to open. Thus, sometimes people would report current members to get in. However, the accusations were never made public, only cafe staff knew. Speaking of this, Jiun remembered that Eugene was also one of the staff. She feared Eugene might know many secrets of the mothers present. While Dong-ae went to the restroom, Miho followed her. Before going in, Miho discovered that Jia-eun was also inside, so she did not disturb, but stood outside the door to eavesdrop for a while. Jia-eun and Dong-ae spoke in an unfriendly tone, their words full of confrontation. Then Jia-eun mentioned Miho and deliberately said that before Eugene went to die, Dong-ae and Na-yang had some matter with her. Jia-eun stopped there, but Dong-ae's expression became very unpleasant. Shortly after, Jia-eun came out and saw Miho, but recognized her. Not long ago, Jia-eun's son had bumped into Miho at kindergarten, so they had met once. After Jia-eun left, Miho entered the restroom and took out the lipstick to ask Dong-ae if she had dropped it in the parking lot. Miho believed the person who messaged her to meet there was Dong-ae. She could not understand why Dong-ae could have asked directly, but instead played childish tricks. Miho also wanted to know what exactly had happened before Eugene went to die. Dong-ae avoided all questions, instead criticizing Miho for making the neighborhood chaotic. Then Dong-ae hinted that she had investigated Miho's background, warning that if she did not want to be driven away, she should keep quiet and live peacefully. The USB everyone had been scrambling for had been taken to kindergarten by her little sister. The girl brought the doll to school to play with friends. During a scuffle with other kids, the doll flew out and got caught in the door, causing its head to fall off. The little sister cried loudly, saying she wants to hold a funeral for the doll, so a teacher took her to bury the doll. But the teacher did not bury it. While the girl was distracted, she threw it away. Unexpectedly, not long after they left, a child picked the doll out of the trash. After school, Miho came to pick up the sisters, but with the doll gone, the little sister was very upset. She mentioned there was a diamond in the doll's bag, but her older sister corrected her. It was not a diamond, but a USB. It turned out the little sister, not knowing what a USB was, had mistaken the shiny thing for a diamond. Hearing this, Miho became alert and hurried back to the kindergarten to search the trash, but found nothing. At this moment, Jiun invited Miho to her house like friends. It turned out Jiun's daughter had taken the doll because she liked it so much. The children played together, and when leaving, Jiun's daughter returned the repaired doll to the little sister. Seeing the doll, Miho's heart tightened. She tried to act calm, but at home, she checked the doll's bag and indeed found a USB. Opening it, she saw folders named after the mothers, but each needed a password to open. Wanting to decode the USB, Miho ran to several shops but found none that could help. Her hurried demeanor was noticed by mothers passing by, who looked at her strangely. Not long ago, Dong-ae had posted an unnamed exposé on social media. Because of one sudden person's appearance, the whole neighborhood was unsettled. That person, in high school, had an unclear relationship with her stepfather. Dong-ae linked Yujin's death and Na Yang's extreme choice to this person. Under the post, a man named Kim Sang-on quickly identified the person as Miho and even posted her photo and other details. After learning this, Miho immediately went to find Dong-ae to demand deletion. But Dong-ae refused, confronting Miho directly. In the end, Miho exposed that Dong-ae seemed to be afraid of something and was targeting her on purpose. Outwardly, Dong-ae was unfazed, but inside, she panicked, worried that Miho had learned something. Then, Miho asked a colleague to help investigate Kim Sang-on. Meanwhile, Na Yang was preparing to leave the hospital, so she called the kindergarten to speak to her daughter. She was told her daughter was absent and the teacher was off today. Na Yang felt uneasy. Checking the teacher's social media, she found that recently, the teacher had announced she was pregnant and counting down to her wedding. In today's selfie, Na Yang's husband and daughter appeared in the background. At that moment, Na Yang felt furious and rushed to the place in the photo. However, she did not dare approach and hid in a corner, calling her husband to ask where he was. He lied, saying he was taking their daughter and a staff member to a performance. Hearing the lie, Na Yang was heartbroken, tears streaming down. She returned to the hospital in despair and went to the rooftop, but this time, she did not do anything rash, only threw the bracelet her husband had given her. That night, Dong-ae met a man with a tattoo on his arm and handed him a file. Not long after, a man came to knock on Miho's door to remind her. He said he lived downstairs and that her home often made loud noises, hoping she would be mindful. Miho apologized repeatedly and noticed his arm tattoo. Meanwhile, Eugene's husband, who had woken days ago, kept Pret, ending to be unconscious in front of medical staff, secretly investigating Miho behind their backs to know her true self. At the same time, Miho suddenly received an urgent call from a colleague. The company had received an anonymous complaint, identical to Dong-ae's post, mentioning her relationship with her stepfather and saying that even in high school there was ambiguity. It also claimed she was linked to Eugene's death and Na Yang's attempted suicide. After being informed, Miho rushed to the company to deal with it. For a false charge, Miho was not afraid, but she could not deny the complaint had damaged her career. She suspected Dong-ae was behind it, but the crises she faced were far from over. Eugene's two younger sisters were also isolated, excluded from the children's activities. When Miho's sisters went out to play, the children were full of energy, no longer gloomy at all. Even after coming home, the two little ones still had energy to run and jump. The noise attracted a man with a tattoo on his arm. The man warned Miho to live quietly, not to make noise again. Miho kept apologizing, then noticed the tattoo on his arm, feeling it looked a bit familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. The next day, the scary tattooed man came again. This time he held a stick to threaten Miho to leave, then forcefully banged on the door. Frightened, Miho sought help from the security guard, asking if the tattooed man lived on the floor below. The guard, who knew the residents well, denied it after hearing her description. He said the tattooed man didn't live there at all. Realizing he was deliberately causing trouble, Miho thought of Dong-ae. She checked Dong-ae's social media and found a moving company photo that accidentally captured the tattooed man in a security uniform. At that moment, the doorbell rang, making Miho think the tattooed man had come to harass her again. She shouted through the door that she knew his identity and that Dong had sent him to harass her. When there was no reply, she grabbed an umbrella for defense. But when she opened the door, it turned out to be Na Yang. Na Yang invited Miho to work with her to deal with Dong-ae, but she also had her own purpose. She wanted to get back the photos of her husband's affair from Yujin's USB. Na suggested Miho could rally more like-minded people to oppose Dong-ae. After listening to Na Yang talk for a long time, Miho suddenly had an idea. She would ask Jia-won for help. She would expose Dong-ae's fake facade at the upcoming mothers' meeting. Since Jia-yoon already disliked Dong-ae, having an ally to deal with her was no bad thing. On the meeting day, Dong-ae wanted to propose reforms to the kindergarten, including measures to remove children from scandal-tainted families. This rule was clearly aimed at isolating Miho and the two kids. Ji-won arrived early to object, buying time for Miho, who was stuck in traffic. As the two argued, Miho entered just in time before the proposal passed. Na Yang followed right after and stood by Miho, showing that her extreme choice had nothing to do with Miho. Then Miho calmly addressed the room, clarifying the false rumors spread online about her. Colleague Nam helped her find Kim Sang-on, who had left a comment under Dong-ae's post. He was indeed Miho's high school friend, but the account wasn't his. He had never commented. Dong-ae had created the account in his name and controlled it. Miho also revealed Dong-ae had hired the tattooed man to threaten her family's safety. She finally remembered where she had seen him. On the day Yujin died, she had brought a cake to her home and met the tattooed man in a black cap in the elevator. She recalled that when she got out of a taxi, he appeared in front of her, so the taxi's dashcam might have recorded him. She found the driver, watched the footage, and confirmed her memory was Rai GHT. Later, Miho confronted Dong-ae, telling her that on the night Yujin died, the tattooed man had been at her building, worked for her, and had threatened Miho's safety. With such clear evidence, Dong-ae admitted knowing him but denied any link to Yujin's death, saying she had called him for personal matters that day. Miho caught the inconsistency. Dong-ae had told police she was at a family gathering that day, so why had the tattooed man come to her building? The answer was obvious. She was hiding something. After all this, Miho decided to investigate the real cause of her friend's death herself. The three women scored a major win, humiliating Dong-ae in public. Jia-eun, in high spirits, invited Miho to join Cafe 99. Miho agreed immediately. No harm in it. Na Yang still wanted the affair photos, but Miho hadn't cracked the USB password yet. She promised to send them after unlocking it. Dong-ae, already angered, now faced two battles, against the mothers and against her unruly younger brother, who spent his days idling with shady friends and indulging in white powder. Yin discovered this secret and used it to threaten Dong-ae to stop spreading rumors about her. She warned Dong-ae not to try inciting the mothers again. This secret had to stay buried forever. If exposed, not only would her brother's future be ruined, but her own career would collapse. Holding this grudge, Dong-ae hated Yujin even more. Na Yang also disliked Yujin, but hating someone and wanting them dead were two different things. She wished Yujin gone, but wouldn't act recklessly. In the mothers' circle, happy rivalries were everywhere, people creating illusions of being the happiest just to outdo others. Sometimes, winning wasn't about making yourself happier, but about destroying someone else's happiness. Over time, Yujin's case saw new developments. Yujin's husband awoke and told police the two women had conspired to harm him. During questioning, he claimed Miho had incited Yujin to act. He recounted that he met his wife at a symphony lovers club, fell in love at first sight, and quickly began a sweet romance. But the more he learned, the more he found Yujin to be a compulsive liar. After marriage, more problems emerged. He suspected she had delusions, spending all day on social media, lying to build her online image. On the day of the kindergarten performance, Ji-eun's daughter never touched theirs. But Eugene insisted her child had been bullied. Their daughter wasn't allergic to peanuts, but Eugene claimed she was. Convinced by her self-created world, Eugene began suspecting her husband wanted to kill her. At home, if he merely raised his hand, she screamed as if about to be hit. She started watching news about spousal murders. Then Miho appeared, fueling her delusions. That night, while the kids were camping, Yujin and her husband drank together. After getting him drunk, she suddenly demanded to know how he planned to kill her. Thinking she had relapsed, he was caught off guard when Miho arrived at their door and spoke to Yujin. After returning, Yujin became agitated, grabbed a kitchen knife, and in the struggle, accidentally stabbed herself. When her husband tried calling police, she stabbed him too. Semi-conscious, he saw Yujin searching for something, apparently calling Miho. He concluded the two had plotted together. The husband told all this to police, scratching his arm nervously. Miho found the accusation absurd and protested her innocence. He questioned why Miho and Yujin had suddenly reconnected after years, and said he'd seen Yin secretly giving Miho money. Police also noted Miho had been secretly researching Yujin's social media, adding suspicion. With all evidence pointing at her, Miho couldn't clear her name even if she jumped into the Yellow River. She was furious. How could they convict her based on one man's word? On the night of the incident, Eugene and her husband were alone, so he should be the prime suspect. Still, Miho was taken for questioning, sparking gossip among the mothers. The kindergarten's pajama party was coming, but parents showed little interest. Even Dong-ae, usually the most eager, declined. Learning Miho had been arrested, Na-young asked her husband to act as her defense lawyer. After Na-young's husband stepped in to quickly stop the police's high-pressure interrogation, it didn't take long before he brought Miho out of the police station through proper procedures. Miho returned to Eugene house again, only to find that the door code had been changed. She then went to the kindergarten to ask around, and learned that recently the two kids had been cared for by Eugene's father-in-law. So Miho contacted Eugene's father-in-law wanting to meet the two kids, but still received no reply. In the end, Miho returned home after a long absence, feeling nothing but exhausted and worn out. The next day, Miho went to the hospital to visit Eugene's husband, but he refused to receive visitors. At that moment, Na-young came to see Miho for a private talk. While Miho was called away by her husband, Eugene quietly left the hospital. Na-young asked Miho to help her by inviting a teacher out under her name. After that, Miho told Na-young about the recent events. Miho couldn't understand why Eugene's husband would want to frame her. What exactly had happened before Eugene's incident that turned her from gentle and passionate into a completely different person? Na-young had heard some rumors that after the kindergarten performance, Eugene and her husband treated their children extremely harshly. Eugene was furious, but pretended nothing happened. She deliberately brought up Na-young's husband's affairs on social media and even attacked Dong-ae's company. This made Dong-ae very angry, and she told Na-young that she would definitely find Eugene's past weakness. A few days later, Dong-ae said she had found it. Na-young still didn't know what it was. Perhaps because of this weakness, Eugene had completely changed in the time before her death. Miho guessed that Dong-ae might have used it to threaten Eugene, and that it was related to her husband. For now, only Dong-ae knew the truth. At that moment, Dong-ae was restless and uneasy. Being repeatedly blackmailed with her younger brother's disgraceful lifelong misdeeds, she compromised again and again. After talking with Na-young, Miho went to the hospital where Eugene's husband worked. Just as she arrived, he also came to his hospital. He entered his consultation room, locked the door, and secretly took a hidden phone from a drawer. He calmly deleted all call logs, messages, and photos. As he was about to leave, Miho blocked him in the hallway. When the two went up to the rooftop to talk, Miho directly questioned why he had framed her. Yujin's husband instead accused Miho of destroying his family's peaceful and happy life. After their talk, Yujin's husband secretly smashed the hidden phone and threw it in the trash. Miho missed the two sisters dearly, so she went to the kindergarten just to see them. But Yujin's father-in-law had told the teacher not to let Miho meet the kids. Miho noticed on the school bulletin board that only Yujin's daughter's drawing was missing. The new teacher told her the girl now resisted drawing. This was strange because she used to love it more than anything. Such a sudden personality change surely had a hidden reason. Miho recalled Na Yang telling her that Yujin had gotten angry at the kindergarten and ripped up the children's drawings. Thinking of this, Miho immediately asked the teacher about it. It turned out that day Yujin had suddenly barged into the classroom, taken her daughter's sketchbook, and torn up her drawing on the wall. Since then, the girl had stopped drawing altogether. This made Miho suspicious. Wanting to see the sisters, Miho asked another mother for help to bring the children from Yujin's father-in-law to meet her. The sisters ran toward Miho and hugged her tightly, expressing how much they had missed her. When asked about drawing, the girl avoided the question, only saying that her mother didn't let her draw. After a short chat, Miho handed them back to the mother, who gave her an important clue. On the Cafe 99 website, there was an anonymous members' message board that might hold clues. Upon learning this, Miho began reading the posts and found that behind their glamorous appearances, many mothers had hidden sufferings no one knew about. Meanwhile, Yujin's husband had gone to a hotel. A woman came to the same floor, exchanged glances with him, then entered the room next door. Not long after, she knocked on his door and took something black from her handbag. Yujin's husband looked at her with a perverse expression. Miho saw an anonymous post with question marks at the beginning and end of the title, a posting habit of Yujin's. The poster said she had found a strange video on her husband's computer. It shocked her so much that she trembled, and even her child had seen it. When Miho saw the content, she was horrified. She searched for a USB drive but couldn't crack the password, so she sought expert help. Miho didn't know Yujin's husband at all, so she contacted Na Yang's husband to meet and get some inside information. That night, Na Yang's husband had a father's gathering and invited Miho along. They went to an exclusive nightclub where Miho was the only woman. The men's unfriendly gazes and disrespectful tone toward her and Yujin were obvious. Feeling uneasy, Miho drank a few glasses and asked them about Yujin. Na Yang's husband revealed that Yujin's husband had apparently done something wrong. So much so that he paid huge taxes just to transfer highly valuable real estate to Yujin. Miho got no further answers and left. After she left, the men continued talking, hinting at Yujin's husband's abnormal sexual preferences, speculating that this might be why he transferred the property. At that moment, Miho returned to retrieve the phone she had deliberately left recording. The men looked at each other, but only Dong A's husband escorted her out. Dong A's younger brother was also at the nightclub, arguing with a bartender. The two passed by and were surprised to see this. The younger brother mocked his brother-in-law for living off a woman, even threatening to make them divorce. Because Dong A's husband's weakness was in his hands, he had always endured the younger brother's orders. But tonight, Dong A's husband snapped and shoved him. The younger brother, enraged, tried to attack him but was stopped by staff and, in frustration, punched the staff member. Dong A rushed over upon hearing the news and watched the whole incident through CCTV, hoping it wouldn't escalate to the police. She was willing to pay for a settlement, even kneeling to apologize. But soon after, the news of her brother's misdeeds still spread online, making her fear for her career. She contacted her secretary but couldn't reach him. In her safe, she found a letter from him saying he had taken the money inside as his severance pay. After being forced to babysit her younger brother daily, the secretary couldn't stand it anymore and quietly left. Dong A suffered heavy losses and immediately ordered the video online to be removed, but it was too late. No one came to the investment presentation, and all her efforts were ruined. She had to reluctantly give all her staff a break, feeling extreme regret for ruining everything. Meanwhile, Na Yang's husband called Yujin's husband, telling him that Miho had overheard the men talking at the nightclub. Yujin's husband was very worried, while Na Yang's husband, seeing through it, simply hinted for him to handle it quickly. That night, Yujin's husband returned home quietly and saw Miho's investigation board. He began scratching his arm anxiously, then destroyed the board before calming down. The next day, the USB password was cracked, and Miho found a folder named after Yujin's husband. She eagerly opened the video, which showed him holding a wand-like prop in a perverse act. Even Miho wept in shock. Thinking that Yujin's daughter might have seen such videos, she felt even more heartbroken for the sisters' situation. After that, Miho made an appointment to meet Yujin's husband to break the spell. She took out a USB, preparing to send it to the police station, but before that, she hoped the other party would confess. The husband didn't take Miho seriously at all, because long before this, the police and Yujin already knew about it. At first, when Yujin discovered his horrifying secret, he transferred real estate under Yujin's name as Hush Money. Everything was over, and he had no reason to kill Yujin. Yujin's death had nothing to do with this. Then Miho questioned what really happened on the day of the incident. Yujin's husband was cornered and said it was all Miho's responsibility. Miho's appearance drove Yujin mad, making his wife go insane. That night, before Yujin left forever, her last call was to Miho. At that time, Miho didn't hear clearly what Yujin said, but he was right next to her and heard very clearly. Yujin told Miho to go die because someone like her was truly terrifying. Miho half believed it, so she found a karaoke bar to check the USB's contents. Inside was a personal letter Yujin wrote to her. Yujin wrote that recently Miho suddenly appeared, saying she would expose her past and threatening her in a frightening way. She felt uneasy and fearful, gradually developing a nervous breakdown, unable to sleep. Because of this, she even thought of leaving this world. Miho read the letter, tears streaming down. She gradually suspected herself, thinking Yujin's death was related to her. The next day, Miho received a call from Yujin's father-in-law. Miho had many belongings left at Yujin's house, so he told her to come get them. The moment Miho returned to that familiar house, she felt very sad. After packing her luggage, Miho was about to leave when she found a red-stained package at the door. Upon checking, she saw it was sent by Shin Hee-jung to Yujin. Inside was a key and a note saying this was something exchanged for Yujin's life. At the same time, Yujin's husband went to a remote, hidden place. After finding a frizzy-haired woman, he took out Yujin's photo. Then he asked her about Yujin, but she said she didn't remember. Moreover, she didn't want to bother with Yujin's husband. But Yujin's husband called her auntie and signaled her to sit down. Then the two continued negotiating, and the husband again asked her about matters related to Yujin. At the same time, Miho had a key and a threatening letter. The sender was Shin Hee-jung. Miho searched for the sending location and found it was a small remote shop. The next day, Miho returned to work, finishing tasks quickly. Right after work, she went to the shop's door. Miho knocked, and a girl opened it, but she was very cautious toward her. Seeing Miho start rummaging through her bag, the girl snatched it and ran. Miho chased her non-stop but lost track. Then Miho returned to the shop and found the bag in the hands of the frizzy-haired woman. It turned out this was her shop. Miho asked about Shin Hee-jung, but the woman said there was no such person here. Then she quickly kicked Miho out, giving no chance to ask more. As Miho reached the door, she accidentally heard another customer call the woman Boss Shin. Her identity was obvious. She was Shin Hee-jung. So Miho returned, introducing herself as Yujin's friend. Yesterday, someone left a strange package at Yujin's door. Oddly, the package had been sent last December. Why did it only arrive yesterday? Shin Hee-jung looked doubtful but still cautious, refusing to answer her questions. After Miho left, Shin Hee-jung called Yujin's husband, informing him Miho had come with a key. Last time, Yujin's husband had shown her Miho's photo, warning her a woman named Miho might seek her, so she must not reveal anything. Shin Hee-jung was a bit suspicious because before her death, Yujin had indeed given her a key, but she sent it back. She didn't understand why a key sent long ago arrived yesterday, and in Miho's hands. She suspected Yujin's husband was hiding something. Yujin's husband, panicking, secretly contacted a mysterious person in his phone about the package. He asked why it was put back after being taken. If Miho found out something, they would all be doomed. Just then, the police called, asking him to cooperate in the investigation. Meanwhile, Miho went everywhere searching for matching locks for the key, but found no clues. After work, she went again to Shin Hee-jung's shop. This time, Miho changed tactics. She first went to a nearby hair salon, got a haircut, and befriended the owner. From her, Miho learned Yoojin had been there 2 months ago, and that Yoojin and Shin Hee-jung had a relationship no one knew. Yoojin was Shin Hee-jung's daughter. Miho was shocked and hurriedly called her mother to ask about Yoojin's biological mother. Miho's usually gentle mother suddenly turned angry, accusing her of being too abrupt, then hung up. Miho didn't give up, visiting Shin Hee-jung every day. She then directly exposed Shin Hee-jung's identity. Shin Hee-jung didn't deny it, and frankly told some past events Miho didn't know. She took Miho to a small, cramped room. After graduating high school, Yoojin lived in such a bad environment for 2 years. All of this was caused by Miho's mother. That year, Yoojin's parents divorced not because her mother cheated, but because her father did, and the affair was with Miho's mother. After breaking another's family, Miho's mother married Yoojin's father, but after marriage, she treated Yoojin poorly. In front of teachers, she falsely claimed Yoojin's mother cheated and brainwashed Miho into believing everything was Yoojin's family's fault. During Yoojin's father's business failure, when she was chased by creditors, Miho's mother gave her a small sum, telling her to leave. Yoojin, with Dong-ae, once took that money intending to jump into the river but decided to live. Throwing the humiliating money in the air, she resolved to start over. After learning the truth, Miho was shocked and confronted her mother. How could she shamelessly blame others when she was wrong? In the end, Miho's family were the culprits, and she had been blind, hurting Yoojin all along. Facing this, her mother loudly claimed it was all for her children. Miho found it laughable. Her mother never failed to blame others. Miho kept asking what happened when Yoojin lived at her birth mother's shop after graduation. Her mother didn't answer but shouted at Miho, then fainted. After waking, Miho asked again about the key, but her mother stayed silent. So Miho decided to investigate herself. Without hesitation, she went to a locksmith. The owner recognized it as an apartment locker key. Miho went to the lockers and, after trying repeatedly, finally opened one. At the same time, Yoojin's husband was questioning someone on the phone about the lost key, sending it to his house stupid, and that this person was the one who killed Yoojin. The mysterious person denied it and told him not to worry. There was nothing in the locker. Indeed, when Yoojin opened it, there was only half a picture of a girl. Yoojin's husband then warned the person that if they crossed the line again, he wouldn't spare their children. The next day, Yoojin's husband went to the police station to cooperate with the investigation. Regarding his testimony, the police still had some doubts. According to Yoojin's husband, on the day of the murder, Miho had once come to their door and the two had an argument. After returning home, Yoojin became agitated and threatened to kill everyone, while taking a knife from the kitchen. The police found it puzzling that if she was upset with Miho, why would she swing the knife toward her innocent husband? Hearing this, Yoon's husband calmly explained to the police that Yoojin, in an uncontrollable emotional state, would have thoughts of harming herself, and he only stepped forward to stop her. The husband repeatedly emphasized that Yoon had a mental illness, which could not help but arouse police suspicion. Unfortunately, without concrete evidence, the police could not prosecute him. Unable to get help from the police, Miho decided to investigate on her own. On the delivery box containing that key was a note about the shipping company. Miho found the delivery worker, took out the package, and asked him about it. The package had clearly been sent in December, yet it had only been delivered to the house recently. Hearing this, the delivery worker helped trace the route of the package. It had indeed been sent in December, but was marked as delivered at 9:20 p.m. the next day. Miho widened her eyes, for this proved the package had been sent a day before Yoojin went to die. Moreover, the delivery time was right after Yoojin went to die. Therefore, Miho speculated that on the night of the incident, someone else had been at Yoojin's house, took the package from the door, and only recently returned it. Miho hurried to the management office, wanting to check the surveillance footage to know who had brought the package back. However, the residential complex valued residents, privacy greatly and was unwilling to easily provide the footage. Miho had to wait until the manager got off work and then coax the front desk staff. Only then did she get a chance to view the surveillance at the main gate. Miho stared at the screen during that time frame and saw Ji-yoon hurriedly leaving the building where Yujin lived. Then Miho rushed to the police station to tell them the whole story about the package and also showed the police the surveillance video with Gaeho, feeling that there was a high possibility Ji-yoon had also been at the crime scene at that time. Seeing the police take no action, Miho decided to fight alone. At this time, she went to Ji-yoon's door, wanting to question her. Miho knocked loudly and called Ji-yoon, but the other party remained silent, pretending no one was home. Having no other choice, Miho had to leave first. The next day, she went straight to Ji-yoon's workplace, but after waiting a long time, Ji-yoon, who had gone out, still hadn't returned. Miho tried calling her, only to find Ji-yoon's phone had been left at the office. A colleague, seeing Miho's worried expression, helped her call Ji-yoon's work phone, saying a guest was waiting for her. Based on the colleague's description, Ji-yoon guessed the visitor was Miho, so when she was near the company, she quickly fled. Upon hearing that Ji-yoon had two phones, Miho thought of the strange number that H had arranged a meeting in the parking lot before. Perhaps it was a message Ji-yoon sent from her work phone. At this time, the colleague wondered why Ji-yoon, who had said she was almost at the company, still hadn't shown up. Avoiding suspicion, Miho quickly went downstairs to look. At the women's restroom on the first floor, she saw a stall locked from the inside. Quick-witted, Miho called the strange number on her phone that she suspected was Ji-yoon's. From inside the stall came the sound of a ringtone. Seeing she could no longer hide, Ji-yoon opened the stall door and walked straight ahead. Miho followed, taking out Yujin's USB, wanting to make a deal with her. As long as she told the truth, Miho would delete the folder related to Ji-yoon inside. Although she held the USB, Miho had never looked at the secrets inside, not even once, nor was she curious about her true identity. Seeing this, Ji-yoon admitted to her that her daughter was adopted. On that speech day, Ji-yoon was dissatisfied that Yujin had slandered her daughter and even hit her with a sparkler. In anger, she spread bad rumors about Yujin. Yujin, upon hearing the news, had arranged to meet Ji-yoon to show her the audio evidence she had. Someone who knew the matter revealed that Ji-yoon had adopted her current child. Miho was completely uninterested in this issue. She was only curious why Ji-yoon had taken the package and then returned it. Hearing this, Ji-yoon showed a face full of suspicion. Faced with the package and the surveillance video that Miho presented, she explained that that day she had gone to her daughter's friend's house. But when leaving, she saw Dong-ae's husband coming into the elevator from the 10th floor, the floor where Yujin lived. Not only that, she also received a call from Yoon's husband. Ji-yoon recalled that after she left the elevator, she heard Dong-ae's husband mention Yujin's name. Dong-ae's husband thus became Miho's latest suspect, as he did seem a bit suspicious. One evening, Dong-ae happened to overhear her husband on the balcony talking to his younger brother on the phone, and in his words, he mentioned some woman. Dong-ae grew suspicious and ordered the tattooed man from before to investigate her husband. Later, the tattooed man arranged to meet Dong-ae in the car, saying her husband was very clean. After saying that, Dong-ae got out of the car without thinking much. Once Dong-ae had gone far, the tattooed man immediately called her husband. This man had uncovered an interesting past about Dong-ae's husband. Before Yujin went to die, she had met him very often. As long as Dong-ae's husband gave him a reasonable sum of money, the tattooed man would help keep his secret. The husband roared that he had no relationship whatsoever with that woman, then angrily hung up the phone. The tattooed man had just tossed the phone onto the passenger seat when Dong-ae suddenly appeared, replaying the recording of the call he had just made. Faced with Dong-ae's questioning, he had to tell the truth. Before Yujin went to die, she had often met Dong-ae's husband, and was apparently holding some leverage over him. At this moment, Dong-ae remembered that on the night Yujin went to die, her husband's whereabouts had indeed been unclear. He did not return home until 11:30 p.m., and during that time, no one knew where he had been. Acting quickly, Miho turned to Na Yang for Dong A's husband's contact information. Na Yang, meanwhile, was also busy. She arranged through Miho to meet that mistress teacher. Na Yang and the teacher exchanged pleasantries before she suggested the teacher help her daughter's husband. When the two women lived under the same roof, Na Yang deliberately pretended to have no appetite at mealtimes. The teacher suddenly remembered that when she was newly pregnant, he had used the excuse of poor appetite to show off in front of Na Yang. Indeed, life always changes. The teacher went to the bathroom and saw the pregnancy test Na Yang had deliberately left there. Seeing this, the teacher instantly lost interest and angrily left. But Na Yang was not pregnant. That pregnancy test was just something she had picked up from the obstetrics department. The teacher, angry, confronted Na Yang's husband, demanding he divorce immediately or she would go to his company to cause trouble. The husband told her to know her place, as Na Yang was still the legal wife. If she were truly pregnant, he could not just ignore it and happily be with the mistress. Moreover, the decision now was in his hands. The teacher tried to coax him, but he still dared to act recklessly, so she ordered him to divorce. Watching her leave coldly, the teacher declared she would never forgive him. Their conversation had been overheard by Na Yang in her husband's car earlier. Now the development of their situation was exactly as she had planned. Na Yang quietly arranged the details of her assets and prepared the divorce papers. Then she called the teacher, planning to join forces to deal with that scumbag man. Before she could say much, Na Yang began feeling unwell, even slightly nauseous. Perhaps she was really pregnant now. On Miho's side, she had Dong A's husband's number, but no matter how she called or texted, he did not respond. That night, she arranged to meet Yujin's mother to have a heartfelt talk. Yujin's mother asked Miho to use money in exchange for the information she knew. A week before Yin went to die, she had given her mother the key, asking her to give it to the police if she went to die. But a few days later, she changed her mind and told her mother to throw the key away. The mother felt the key was a bad omen, so she sent it back. These clues were meaningless to Miho, as she had already investigated clearly long ago. While the two were talking, the girl who had snatched Miho's bag earlier was secretly watching from the corner. At the same time, Na Yang, upon returning home, happened to meet Dong A's husband, so she quickly informed Miho. Miho, who was negotiating with Yujin's mother, asked Na Yang to help stall him so she could come later. Na Yang lied that she had something to give Dong A's child and hoped her husband would deliver it. Dong A's husband, unwilling to refuse, went with Na Yang to her house. When Na Yang went inside to get the item, he waited outside the door. Ending her conversation with Yujin's mother, Miho immediately rushed to Na Yang's door to block Dong A's husband and took out a package. Dong A's husband also looked flustered and denied that the package had anything to do with him. After that, Miho continued to press about the relationship between him and Yin. Seeing the other party not answering, Miho mentioned Yujin's husband. Dong A's husband immediately became agitated, explaining that he had no relationship with the other party, and nothing had happened at all. This statement instead deepened Miho's suspicion. At this moment, Dong A rushed over to stop Miho from approaching her husband, then pulled him back home. That night, Yujin's husband and Na Yang's husband drank together to celebrate that he had been cleared of suspicion, and thus became a free man. To be honest, Na Yang's husband was very curious about the truth of that night. Yujin's husband no longer hid it, and admitted that he was the one who turned his wife into ashes. That night, Yujin was very agitated and grabbed a sharp knife, so he stepped forward to stop her. He held Yujin's hand but suddenly changed his mind, then controlled Yujin's hand to stab the knife into her stomach. Seeing the other party's tense expression, Yujin's husband diverted the conversation, saying he was just joking. Until now, the police still have not found any evidence. Even if he were the culprit, he could not be convicted. Na Yang's husband reminded him to be careful, because as long as someone insisted on investigating, even the slightest clue could turn the situation around. On Miho's side, she also began to suspect Dong A's husband. In his social media comments, she found the account of his younger brother. Then Miho sent a private message to Dong A's younger brother to arrange a meeting. The younger brother happily agreed, then turned around and told his brother-in-law that he would meet Miho to put pressure on him. The younger brother had once left a comment under Dong A's husband's photo, pointing out that he was still, as always, apparently used to sucking up to women and being supported by them. Miho wanted to understand the meaning of this statement, but the younger brother did not say it directly and only hinted subtly. Yoo-jin had held a secret about her brother-in-law, and this secret was important enough that he would turn her into ashes. While the two were talking, Dong-ae and her husband rushed over. Dong-ae charged in and beat her younger brother furiously, but even that did not satisfy her anger. She also hit her husband. Dong bluntly said she knew her husband's secret, that he had once worked in a bar. The husband had always wanted to hide it, but Dong-ae had known for a long time. All in all, such an insignificant secret was not enough reason to turn someone into ashes. Therefore, Miho suspected the real secret was something else. Hearing this, Dong-ae took out her husband's savings book. Inside, there were often records of large withdrawals. Every time her husband was blackmailed by the younger brother, he used money to settle it. And this was how the husband dealt with the secret. Miho, half believing, firmly demanded he state his whereabouts on the night Yoo-jin died. Dong-ae, displeased with Miho's questioning, smashed a wine bottle. Then she picked up a shard, intending to call the police to claim someone had assaulted her because she wanted Miho to taste what it felt like to be falsely accused. Miho had to stop, and so the unpleasant scene ended. The husband wanted to talk to Dong-ae, but she felt tired. She knew clearly that her husband was having an affair with another woman. Initially, Dong-ae had married him because he seemed obedient. Now that things had reached this point, she didn't want to say anything more, telling him to go home so they could both calm down. Dong-ae's husband packed his things, withdrew all the money from the savings book, and left without saying where he was going. No matter how Dong tried to contact him, she couldn't, and she became worried. Eventually, she found a divorce agreement at home. Dong-ae waited at home for her husband until she finally saw him return. Then he gave her all the cash he had withdrawn. The husband had thought about leaving, but without Dong-ae, he truly couldn't live. Hearing this, Dong-ae sneered coldly and directly exposed him, because she knew he clearly liked Yoo-jin more than anyone. 2 days before Yoo-jin's death, the younger brother had seen his brother-in-law and her together in a car. After Yoo-jin got out of the car, she threw away some trash, casually taking something with her. The younger brother picked up the trash and found inside a note written by his brother-in-law, arranging to meet the other party on the night of the 5th. And the 5th was exactly the day Yoo-jin died. Dong-ae's husband had been waiting for her at the meeting point in the parking lot. The husband explained that the two were only in a fleeting relationship. Yoo-jin had seized his weakness and asked her not to reveal it. However, she indifferently tore up the photo evidence and even had some intimate actions with him. After the incident, he was very scared and did not know how to face this relationship. Yoo-jin calmly said, "After all, the two of you were just playing around. If he were not Dong-ae's husband, Yoo-jin would not have cared about him." Time returned to the present, where the husband kept apologizing to Dong-ae. Dong-ae was very confused. Then she found a secret document in the safe. This was Yoo-jin's weakness that she had found. The person she secretly sent had gone to Shin Hee-jung's store and discovered Yoo-jin's past that she did not want to recall. At that time, Dong-ae had once shown these things to Yoo-jin to threaten her. But Yoo-jin did not yield, instead advising Dong-ae to protect what was important. The next day, Dong-ae went to Miho's company to find her again, once more emphasizing that her husband was not the culprit. While talking, Dong-ae pointed to a new suspect, Ji-eun. Then, Dong-ae took out a file, which turned out to be Ji-eun's mortgage documents. It could be seen that she was under great financial pressure, because last year she had taken another loan. Living a difficult life, yet in such circumstances, Ji-eun wore only designer clothes. For someone like Ji-eun, this was truly suspicious. Recently, Yoo-jin's father-in-law injured his hand, so he asked Miho to help take care of the children. With no other choice, Miho and her colleague took the two siblings home. During this time, the girl at Shin Hee-jung's store had been watching them from a corner. When Miho took the children inside, the girl went to the door and angrily spat out her lollipop. Unexpectedly that night, Yoo-jin's husband also came home without warning. As soon as he appeared, Miho immediately lost favor because the children all wanted to sleep with their father. Miho went to the bathroom and saw Yoo-jin's husband's phone left there, but after several tries, she still could not unlock it. At that moment, two messages came in. one saying to meet tomorrow at that place, and another telling Eugen's husband to pay quickly. The second message told him to take this matter to the grave. Suddenly, Eugen's husband pushed the door open and entered, quickly putting the phone back in place. Miho did not understand the situation. Now she suspected that the real culprit was either Dong-a's husband or Ji-eun. But regardless, the fact that Eugen's husband deliberately hid the truth from the police was enough to prove he was an accomplice. The next day, Miho and her colleagues split up, one waiting on the first floor, the other in the basement parking lot. They monitored Dong-a's husband and Ji-eun. Then the two saw Ji-eun appear at a motel. Miho followed upstairs and saw Ji-eun enter a room. Miho barged in regardless and caught Ji-eun and Eugene's husband together. It turned out that on the night of Eugene's incident, the person hiding in her house was Ji-eun. Seeing the scene, Miho immediately took out her phone to film, but Eugene's husband rushed up to grab it, saying that Ji-eun was the culprit and it had nothing to do with him. Ji-eun angrily fought with him. But just then, a hotel staff member knocked on the door. While Miho went to open it, Ji-eun ran away. Miho chased her, wanting to ask clearly. Ji-eun kept explaining she was not the culprit, but could not say more. She gave Miho another clue, that in the storage locker, there had originally been a painting by Eugene's daughter. People might not believe it, but the painting was the clue. She then begged Miho to follow that clue to continue the investigation. Miho wanted to ask more, but Eugene's husband silently took Ji-eun away. He whispered something in Ji-eun's ear, and she immediately became obedient. After Eugene's incident, Ji-eun had gone to the hospital to see Eugene's husband and blackmail him. Eugene's husband angrily said, "Who told this woman to have my wee Agnes?" He said he was willing to pay, but Ji-eun was not a good person either. Miho kept recalling what Ji-eun had told her, that the painting was the clue. She took out the half-finished painting and asked the daughter what she had drawn, but the girl refused to say. Then Miho came up with an idea. While playing games, she coaxed the girl to tell the truth. Eugene's daughter told Miho she had drawn a family, then redrew it exactly the same on paper again. The scary thing was that Eugene's family clearly had 4 members, but the daughter had drawn 5, and the last person even had a pair of wings. After that, the little girl told Miho that she had an older sister. This made Miho so shocked she couldn't speak. She was about to ask more when the child ran off, refusing to say anything else. At this moment, Dong-a arrived, and she handed over documents about Eugene's past that she had investigated earlier to Miho. In the file was a photo of a young girl, which made Dong-a curious about who she was. Looking at the document, Miho immediately guessed that the girl in the picture was likely the sister the child had just mentioned. On the other side, things were not going well for Eugene's husband and Ji-eun either. The fact that the two were seen meeting tonight by Miho caused Eugene's husband to hold a grudge against her. Meanwhile, Miho had already reported this lead to the police. When the police found Eugene's husband, they questioned him about his relationship with Ji-eun. They wanted to know where Ji-eun was on the night Yin died. However, Eugene's husband pretended to be completely ignorant. The police then warned him not to trust Ji-eun too much. A partnership that seemed unbreakable crumbled easily in reality. Even so, Eugene's husband, provoked by the police, kept his mouth shut and said nothing. Miho took the picture of the girl to Shin Hee-jung's store. Not long ago, Eugene's husband had also come to ask about this girl. He had investigated and discovered that before marrying him, Eugen had given birth to a daughter with another man. He then warned Shin Hee-jung to help keep this important secret. Shin Hee-jung remembered Eugen's husband's request and stayed silent in front of Miho. Since Miho didn't know the truth, she decided to investigate on her own. There was one thing Miho couldn't understand. Based on what she knew of Eugen's husband, if this girl really was Yin's child, he definitely wouldn't let her go. That day, Miho stayed at the shop, sitting quietly in a corner, observing customers coming and going. She still hoped she could wait for the girl named Chu Yu to talk to her directly. While Miho was away, a colleague watched over the siblings for her. Meanwhile, Chu Yu, the girl Miho was looking for, was at Eugen's apartment building. From a distance, she observed the movements downstairs, so when she saw Miho's colleague, she recognized him immediately. Previously, this man had accompanied Miho in taking the siblings into the elevator. She then threw a bottle toward him, startling him. Upon hearing the news, Miho immediately returned to check the situation. Through surveillance cameras, she saw Chuyu's figure. Chuyu hadn't left yet. She was hiding in a corner downstairs. She looked at Miho and her colleague with eyes full of resentment. At the same time, Miho searched for Chuyu in the building. When she came back, she saw Chuyu writing on the wall downstairs. Miho stepped forward to stop her, but Chuyu ran away upon seeing her. A moment later, Miho caught up with Chuyu and realized she was the one who had thrown the vase seen in the surveillance footage. When Miho asked why she had done it, Chuyu angrily replied that it was because she was a child without a mother. At that moment, Miho realized Chuyu was the girl in the photo. Chuyu mistook Miho for her mother and poured all her anger on her, relentlessly questioning her. The girl asked why Miho chose to live with those two children, and why she had to live alone. Miho calmed herself and handed the girl a tissue, waiting for her to settle down before explaining she was not her mother, and her mother used to live here. When she learned her mother had passed away, Chuyu was stunned. All her grievance and anger deflated like a punctured balloon. She sobbed and said through clenched teeth, she deserved it, but still demanded Miho explain why her mother had died. Miho took the girl home and prepared some food, which Chuyu devoured. Meanwhile, Miho informed Shin Hee-jung that Chuyu would be staying the night, but Shin Hee-jung immediately called and told her to send the girl away. While they were talking, Chuyu noticed a family photo of Yin. Seeing Yujin's husband in the picture, she looked shocked. After speaking with Miho, Shin Hee-jung quickly texted Yujin's husband, telling him Chuyu was with Miho. Yujin's husband rushed over to prevent trouble. Seeing the photo, Chuyu remembered some things. Yujin's husband had once approached her and even given her money. Now terrified, she wanted to run away. This made Miho realize Chuyu knew Yujin's husband. She blocked her, wanting to ask some important questions, but Chuyu struggled and kept saying they had never met or done anything together. This reminded Miho of a social media post by Chuyu in which she wrote about a man taking her out for dinner and a movie, a handsome and generous man who made her happy. Miho seemed to understand something and hugged Chuyu sadly. Yujin's husband, standing outside Miho's door, overheard Chuyu crying inside. He didn't go in but called someone, instructing them to act immediately. Soon after, Shin Hee-jung came to take Chuyu away. After sending Chuyu off, Miho reported the information she had to the police. Chuyu was very active online, attracting a lot of attention, and Yujin's husband had taken advantage of this to get close to her. On Ji-eun's USB was a folder containing information about her husband. She must have known about his wrongdoings. This was likely why the couple had argued that night, and possibly why he killed her. But exactly what happened remained unclear, and only Ji-eun could explain. Soon after, the police came to see Miho. Earlier, she had sent them her drawing of Yujin's daughter. Coincidentally, at the scene of Yujin's death, they had found a fragment of the same picture in the toilet. They suspected it was the same drawing. Miho didn't notice someone in a helmet following her. That evening, when she and her colleague went out to eat, a man on a motorcycle wearing a helmet sped toward them. They dodged, but her colleague was injured. At the hospital, Miho trembled with fear. She suspected Yujin's husband was behind it all. After finding his address, she went straight to his house, vowing not to forgive him. For both Yujin and Chuyu, she would make him pay double. The next day, news of the attack spread quickly among residents. Ji-eun, seeing it, trembled in fear. Recently, she had been planning to sell her house, and because she offered a price lower than market value, she had already reached an agreement with a buyer, asking them to keep it secret. Unfortunately, nothing stays hidden forever. Miho overheard that Ji-eun had sold her house, and that she had just taken annual leave starting today. Sensing trouble, Miho rushed to the buyer and told them to halt the payment, then went to confront Ji-eun face-to-face. At that moment, Ji-eun was preparing to take her daughter and run away. Miho stopped her, and the two went home to talk. Ji-eun finally admitted the truth. She had grown up in poverty and envied Yujin, who seemed to have everything. Scamming others into taking high-interest loans was her way of satisfying her resentment. From the day they met, she had secretly followed Yujin. One day, she accidentally saw Yujin put several paintings in a locker, along with a USB. Ji-eun lied that she had the USB and used it to threaten Yoo-jin's husband. She said Yoo-jin had entrusted someone to cremate her husband, and the USB contained proof of this. Hearing this, Miho was shocked. Meanwhile, Yoo-jin's husband, listening in through Jin's phone, caught everything they said. The day before Yoo-jin's death, Ji-eun and Yoo-jin's husband had discussed the fact that she had seen Yoo-jin put a USB in a locker, and she told him Yoo-jin had another USB collecting dirt on the mothers. She wanted his help to get it. After Jin described it, he realized there were two USBs, a silver one containing dirt on the mothers and a black one he needed. They agreed to help each other find it. The next day, Ji-eun found the black USB missing, so she went to tell Yoo-jin's husband. Not wanting to be seen, he pulled her into a small room. Ji-eun lied that she had it and wanted to exchange it for the silver USB she needed. At that moment, Yoo-jin came home, so Ji-eun hid and watched the couple drink together. No one expected that after drinking heavily they would start arguing. Someone knocked on the door. It was Miho. Already upset, Yoo-jin lashed out at Miho and told her to leave, then went back inside to continue arguing, accusing her husband of doing something to Chuyu. The argument escalated into a fight, and Yoo-jin even grabbed a knife to attack him. Hearing this from Jae-eun, Miho was shocked. Ji-eun was about to explain why Yoo-jin had died when Yoo-jin's husband sent her a text threatening her with his daughter, forcing her to stop talking and send Miho away. From what was just said, Yoo-jin's husband realized the black USB was not in Ji-eun's hands, so it might still be in his house. He searched everywhere but couldn't find it. After that, he went to the kindergarten to pick up the children after school. As soon as he entered the house, unable to hold back, he grabbed his daughter and asked about the whereabouts of the black USB. The kindergarten teacher felt a bit uneasy, so she called Miho to tell her that the sisters had been picked up by their father. Miho instantly rushed over to stop the vile act. Yoo-jin's husband said nothing and intended to take the sisters away. The sisters, seeing the two adults in conflict, were frightened and burst into tears. When Miho arrived, looking for Na Yang and Dong-ae's children, they were downstairs. Seeing her run in such a hurry, the two also followed upstairs. Miho handed the two children over to these two mothers for care, while she pulled Yoo-jin's husband back into the house. There, Miho criticized him for being completely unfit to be a father. Yoo-jin's husband flew into a rage, threatening to kill Miho, but Miho was not afraid and even showed contempt. Feeling belittled, Yoo-jin's husband angrily attacked Miho. Luckily, Dong-ae, being cautious, returned in time to save Miho, and then the three mothers took the children away. Na Yang and Dong changed their previous confrontational stance and together gave Miho advice, as everyone wanted to end this matter. The daughter, still frightened, told Miho that her mother had a black USB, always looking at it with great sadness. Hearing the pitiful girl say this, Miho quickly asked further. From the girl's words, Miho learned that the USB was often kept in the bedside drawer of Yoo-jin's room. With this clue, Miho returned to Yoo-jin's house as if at the scene of the incident, took a knife from the kitchen, and reenacted what happened that night. From what she knew, that night, Yoo-jin and her husband had a fierce quarrel. Yoo-jin held a knife to attack her husband but was subdued by him, who, in turn, stabbed himself once. Regaining his senses, he immediately prepared to call the police. Yoo-jin, clutching her wound, also stabbed her husband once. He passed out immediately, while Yoo-jin went to her child's room, found a drawing her daughter had made, tore it up and flushed it down the toilet. She then went to the bedroom, took the black USB from the drawer, and stepped onto the balcony to call Miho. The broken words Yoo-jin spoke then were actually a plea for Miho to save her. After the call, Yoo-jin used her last strength to smash the balcony glass and hurl the USB outside. Because of that, she collapsed on the balcony railing and died in a strange position. After reenacting, Miho wept endlessly in regret. If she had called the police in time, perhaps Yoo-jin could have been saved. But instead, at the last moment of her life, she chose to hide certain things to protect the one she loved. Miho immediately went downstairs, thinking the USB might still be somewhere below. Yoo-jin's husband spotted Miho's figure and followed. Seeing Miho rummaging in the bushes, he became curious. Heaven truly does not abandon the determined. After some searching, Miho finally found the black USB. She opened it right there and saw it stored many happy photos of Yoo-jin and Chuyu. There were also 2 audio recordings, the first of which revealed Yujin hiring someone to kill her husband. He had already heard the first half, but not the second. When the hired person asked Yujin if she was sure about doing it, she had regretted it. Hiding in the shadows, Yujin's husband widened his eyes in shock upon hearing this. The second recording revealed that someone had given the first recording to Yujin's husband and asked what he wanted to do. This was the reason for the fierce quarrel between Yujin and her husband. Seeing Miho finish listening to the contents, he picked up a stone intending to attack her. At that moment, Miho suddenly received a phone call, forcing him to put the stone down. But he quickly came up with a new plan to harm her. Not long after, Miho received a call from Yujin's husband. Inside, he said Chuyu was in his hands, luring Miho to the underground parking lot. Miho ran there while texting the police, telling them to come immediately. She found Yujin's husband in the parking lot, but Chuyu was not there. He said Chuyu had been taken elsewhere, and used that to threaten and prepare to talk to Miho. But as soon as she got in the car, he threatened her with a knife to hand over the USB. After she gave it up, he suddenly struck her unconscious, then drove away with her. Na Young and Dong A waited for a long time without seeing Miho, suspecting something had happened. They retrieved the underground parking lot surveillance footage and discovered she had been taken. Without hesitation, they immediately called the police. On the way, they met a colleague looking for Miho, so the 3 went together to report to the police station. But the police said that with only the surveillance footage, it could not be confirmed as a kidnapping case. Refusing to open a case made the 3 anxious and helpless. At that moment, Na Yang suddenly remembered that while reviewing the footage, she noticed Yujin's husband driving her husband's car, which had a bug she had previously installed. Meanwhile, Yujin's husband accidentally found condoms in the car. He suddenly remembered that Yujin had once suggested divorcing him because he failed even in the role of a man. This remark had deeply lodged in his heart, so he investigated Yujin and found Chuyu. He cared about Yujin's past but still refused to divorce. Yujin threatened to expose the filthy videos he had filmed. But not long after, Yujin found Chuyu's name tag at her husband's place. Yujin, eyes brimming with tears, looked at the beast in human form before her, while he wore a smug, vile expression. Thinking it over, Yujin's husband completely lost reason. He intended to kill Miho, holding a knife as he approached her. But when dragging Miho from the car, he discovered a bug inside. Thinking Miho had secretly installed it, he attacked her in anger and shame. Not long after, Na Yang and Dong A, tracking the car's GPS, found it suddenly cut off. However, Dong A guessed where Yujin's husband would go. He took Miho to a hospital and tied her to a bed. Miho, gagged, groaned in pain. He prepared to inject her with drugs, but at the last moment stopped and tried to win her over. He claimed to be a victim deceived by Yujin, but Miho did not sympathize. Whatever Yujin had done could not change the fact that he had killed his wife. Miho then sharply mocked Yujin's husband. No matter how he justified himself, it was just self-delusion. This reminded him of that night when Yujin had mocked him for failing even as a man. And now, Miho had again touched that nerve. Losing all reason, he attacked her. Just then, a security guard came to the door to check. While he dealt with the guard, Miho freed herself and hid under the table by the door. When he left, she seized the chance to escape. Realizing Miho was gone, he searched everywhere. Miho quietly picked up a syringe from the trash but accidentally made a noise, drawing his attention. Now she was in grave danger. He didn't rush to catch her but whistled as if toying with her. The truth came out from an unexpected confession. In a moment of privacy, Yujin's husband told Miho something that left her stunned. On that fateful night, Yujin could have been saved, but he chose not to. It turned out he had not fainted as he claimed. The truth was that although stabbed by Yujin, he was still conscious. Instead of calling the police, he deliberately stayed silent and let Yujin slowly disappear from life, as if burying her alive with his own hands. Rage surged in Miho, and she silently drew a needle hidden in her sleeve. Taking advantage of his distraction, she stabbed the vile man in the chest. Without waiting for his reaction, she ran into the hallway, shouting in hopes someone would hear. Footsteps quickly closed in. Yujin's husband was catching up. In the struggle, Miho slipped and tumbled down the stairs, her body painfully hitting each step yet she tried to get up. But it was too late. She still fell into his hands. He dragged her to the rooftop, the wind howling as if adding tragedy to the sinful drama. In panic, he snatched the USB from Miho's hand and smashed it to the ground. The shattering sound echoed in the night, chilling her to the bone. Not stopping there, his eyes flashed with madness. He intended to end it all, dragging them both to death from the top of the building. In a critical moment, Na Yang, Dong-ae, and Miho's colleague traced the location thanks to the sound of an argument from the rooftop. The three rushed into the house, following the trail of paint drops on the floor like a red thread guiding a life. The rooftop doors swung open before them. Miho was forced back against the railing. It felt like just one more step would shatter her body into pieces. Without thinking twice, all three charged in to stop the chaotic struggle. In the panic, Yujin's husband slipped, his body teetering over the edge. He barely managed to grab the ledge, his whole body dangling in the air like a man hanging his life on a fragile thread. In that moment, all his arrogance and cruelty vanished, replaced by a frightened look and a trembling plea. "Please, save me." Everyone turned silent, eyes fixed on Miho, the woman holding the power to decide the fate of someone who had once harmed her friend through sheer indifference. Miho stepped forward, her face expressionless but her eyes revealing unhidden hatred. Standing before the man who once pushed her friend to a faraway place, she could take revenge, she could let go. But in the end, Miho chose to extend her hand and save him. Na Yang, Dong-ae, and the colleague joined in to pull the man up, rescuing him once more from death's door. Perhaps Miho had not chosen the path of revenge, but that didn't mean she had forgiven. Yujin's husband was finally arrested, ending his years of deceit and sin. The USB, a key piece of evidence, had been thrown from the upper floor and shattered. But what he didn't expect was that Miho had prepared a backup in advance, so the data was preserved. Now, nothing could hide the truth anymore. At the same time, she too had to pay for her actions and was sent to prison. In the early days of confinement, she tried to maintain a cold, strong front. But over time, surrounded by four cold, white walls, regret began to gnaw at her mind. One day, the friend who had almost bought Ji-in's house came to visit her in prison. Once rivals out of jealousy, that short meeting was like a warm breeze that brought Ji-in her first genuine smile. After all, no matter how much resentment adults carry, their children can still become good friends. Once the truth was revealed, life gradually returned to its proper course. The days of chaos ended, and Miho's, Na Yang's, and Dong-ae's families finally found the peace they deserved. Just days away from the family festival, a major event requiring all parents' participation, Na Yang was still in the process of divorce. But after much thought, she took the initiative to call her husband, telling him he needed to be there for their daughter. Her tone was firm and cold, and when he tried to say something, she hung up first. She was no longer the soft woman who once waited endlessly. After that, Na Yang went to Dong-ae's company to ask for a job, signaling a fresh start to an independent life. Meanwhile, Dong-ae and her husband had reconciled, having learned to value each other after the turmoil. Na Yang's husband, realizing his mistakes, tried little by little to make amends. Yet, life is always full of surprises. Na Yang never expected that her past joke about being pregnant would become reality. Now in her belly, a tiny life was quietly growing, not as a burden but as a gift from fate. A true new beginning for a strong woman who had stepped out of the shadows. After everything, Miho slowly returned to her normal life. She left all the parent groups, deleted every related app, as if cutting ties completely with the painful memories. A new opportunity awaited, as she was about to be sent abroad for work. A new door to another beginning. But one thing still weighed on her heart: Yujin's two daughters. She never spoke of it or admitted it to anyone, but whenever alone, Miho would secretly open her phone and look at pictures of the two sisters. Every smile, every gaze in those photos squeezed her heart. One day, Miho opened the silver USB that had once been crucial evidence. Inside, she discovered it also contained the old accusation letter Yujin had sent her. The familiar lines pulled her back to the chaotic past, where trust was traded for resentment. Trembling, Miho turned to the last two pages she had never noticed before. On them, Yujin had abandoned all restraint, pouring out accusations and relentless questions. Yujin wrote that she couldn't understand why Miho had treated her that way. To her, Miho had been the only family she trusted. A sister, a best friend, the only home in a cold woe. RLD. Yet it was Miho who chose to betray her. Each word pierced Miho's heart like a needle, breaking her composure. It was as if her hard shell shattered, and she collapsed in silent tears. In her torment, she went to where it all began, Yujin's apartment. Looking out at the balcony where Yujin had fallen, Miho thought she saw her old friend standing there. Meeting her calm yet gentle eyes, Miho knelt and wept like a child. Amid sobs, she choked out that she had been wrong back then. Wrong for not knowing the truth, wrong for letting blind hurt cloud her reason. But deep down, she had never hated Yujin, not even a little. On the contrary, Yujin had always been the one she saw as her only family, her home, her best friend in life. In that moment, Yujin's apparition smiled in relief, as if letting go of all resentment. The scene around them seemed to rewind time. The two girls of the past appeared again, running and chasing each other through a small alley. Their laughter echoed under a clear blue sky, so pure it ached the heart. Despite trying to forget, Miho still couldn't rest easy about Yujin's daughters. But then she learned they had moved to live with their grandfather, leaving the city. Quiet disappointment rose in her like a door just opened suddenly slammed shut. At that moment, Dong-A called to invite her to the family event the next day, but Miho hesitated. The children were gone, and she wondered if she had the right to attend. After much thought, she decided to decline. Returning home heavy-hearted, Miho unexpectedly found a package from the girls. Inside were two dolls, the very toys they had cherished most. In that moment, countless memories surged like a broken dam. Laughter, quarrels, innocent eyes, and their tender cries calling her Aunt Miho. After a sleepless night of reflection, Miho decided to attend the next day's event. The scene was warm and moving. The children appeared one by one in recorded videos, sending messages to their parents. Then, each child stepped onto the stage with a gift they had made to give to their parents amid applause. Finally, it was the sisters' turn. Their message wasn't for their parents, but for their best Aunt Miho in the world. In the video, they said they would always remember her and had prepared a gift, the very dolls she had received the night before. At that moment, Miho's tears wouldn't stop, for she realized she had been their family all along. After the ceremony, the girl's grandfather approached her, asking if she truly wanted to adopt them. Miho agreed, this time, not just with a nod, but with a promise. She told them she wanted to be their real family and stay by their side forever. The girls, who had lost their parents and lived in fear and doubt, were always afraid that one day Aunt Miho would leave like other adults before. But her heartfelt promise made them release that fear. They threw themselves into her arms in agreement and trust placed in an adult for the first time. From then on, Miho decided to quit her job and start a new life with the girls. Her colleague often visited to play with them, filling the small house with laughter again. Miho quietly deleted all of Yujin's old social media posts, not to forget her, but because she knew some memories don't need to be stored online. They were etched deep in her heart and would live there forever. The final scene was a gentle afternoon. Miho and the two girls played together, tending the small garden behind the house. They replanted the lucky bamboo for Yujin as a soft yet sacred farewell. Elsewhere, Chu-Yu, after learning her mother had passed away, no longer resented the past and began a peaceful life with Shin Hee-jung. As for Miho's mother, perhaps one day, when she's clear-headed enough to reflect, she'll realize her mistakes. When that day comes, mother and daughter will be able to sit down and speak of the things buried for too long. Because admitting fault and forgiving is not only a way to heal wounds, but the only way to keep living and loving more fully. The film ends here. Thank you everyone for watching. A like may seem small to you, but it can make the channel owner happy all day. So if you enjoyed it, please leave us a like and a subscribe to support the channel. If you want us to review another thrilling drama, quickly leave a comment below. For now, goodbye and see you again, my dear family. I love you.